I'm from Galicia, a region in Spain that speaks a language that is very similar to Portuguese. My girlfriend is from Barcelona, which is in Catalonia. She speaks Catalan. We live in Madrid and study at the university here. Everyone in Spain speaks Spanish, except for foreigners, pretty much on a native level due to education, media, and exposure. There is no such thing as a Spaniard who only speaks Basque, Catalan, or any other language, unless they are 90+ years old from some small village. And even then, they would still know the basics of Castilian Spanish. Okay, so here's the conflict. People from Catalonia are often very nationalistic and will sometimes refuse to speak Castilian. I was in Valencia and someone said, "Speak properly, speak Valencian," a dialect of Catalan, when I asked for directions in Castilian Spanish. My girlfriend invited me over to her parents' house in Barcelona. They talked amongst themselves for a bit in Catalan, and I understood about half or 2/3 of it. They greeted me in Catalan, and I said in Castilian that I don't speak Catalan because I'm from Galicia. They said something in Catalan to each other, which I think was negative. We ate dinner, and her sisters and their husbands were there. They were discussing things in Castilian, but would often say things to each other in Catalan, which I thought was rude. However, I let it go. They kept switching to Catalan during our conversation, and I politely reminded them like 5 times that I don't speak Catalan. They would go back to Castilian, but then switch back to Catalan. I went outside to take a breath of fresh air, and my girlfriend joined me. I asked her what her family's problem was and why they kept excluding me from the conversation. She said they hate speaking Castilian. I told her that's nonsense, because I heard her dad speak in Castilian to someone in Peru during his Zoom meeting. He took a 30-minute Zoom call while I was there, and the mom was preparing food, and he never switched to Catalan. We rejoined the conversation, and they started asking me my opinion about things. I responded and asked them questions, but they just responded back in Catalan and continued speaking to each other in Catalan. I had enough and said, "I'm leaving now. The food was good, but I just can't stand the rudeness. I told you so many times that I do not speak Catalan. I don't feel welcome, so I'm going. Goodbye." The father said, "How freaking rude. We prepared such a good meal for you, and you are leaving it unfinished. We spent hours on this. They made an entire goose and like 5 side dishes." I said, "I freaking told you I don't speak Catalan. Why should I be here when you can't even respect me enough to speak in a common language? I never spoke to you in Galician, Portuguese, English, or Romanian. Frick you jerks." I grabbed my stuff and left. I had received 15 missed calls from my girlfriend last night, and I stayed at a friend's parents' home nearby. We haven't talked in a day, and I don't know what to do now. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. They start asking me my opinion about things. I respond. I ask them questions, and they just respond back in Catalan and respond to each other's responses to that in Catalan. This is just flat out rude, deliberately so. Out of some sort of parochial pride, they switch in the middle of a conversation with you to the local language they know you don't speak, rather than speaking the common tongue they know everyone present can speak and understand. It would be one thing if it were limited to asides to each other. But to switch right in the middle of talking with you in order to cut you out is just them being needlessly aggressive in their parochial BS. It is rude. You aren't speaking your native local language, but the common one in order to communicate. But rather than meeting you halfway and doing the same, they would rather play games than put that shoot aside for a day so they can get to know you. You don't get to give someone the finger repeatedly, then get all offended when they aren't willing to put up with it anymore. Not the idiot. Comment 2. Everyone sucks here. You are right that they were being rude. Whether it was intentional or they were just being lazy, it is still rude. I don't think you are wrong for how you feel. The way you responded, though, that got a little escalated and too far. They may be rude, but do you want to be rude too? You can say thank you for the food. Continue to repeat that you are leaving because you don't feel welcome. Unless they are willing to include you in the conversation, then you would rather go elsewhere. And feel free to offer to pay them if they really want to make a show about all the work they went to in order to kindly invite you to their home, etc. Because fair enough, they did go to all of that work. Unfortunately, they just didn't realize that human needs are more than just food and shelter. It's belonging and connection too. Maybe they will be better hosts to someone else. Your rudeness was not an acceptable response. Though fair enough that you walked out. Now, for the update. A lot has happened since my last post, and I'm still reeling from the events of the past few days. After the disastrous dinner with my girlfriend's family, things have only escalated, and I'm at a loss for how to handle the situation. The next day, my girlfriend finally reached out to me. She was apologetic, but she also tried to justify her family's behavior, saying that they're just very proud of their Catalan heritage. She told me stories about her grandparents, who lived through times when speaking Catalan was frowned upon, and how that struggle had left a deep mark on her family. I understood the history, but it didn't excuse their behavior towards me. We decided to meet up and talk things through. She suggested a cafe that her family owned, which I thought was a neutral ground. But when I arrived, I found out it was anything but neutral. Her sisters were there, and they immediately started speaking in Catalan, ignoring me completely. I felt like I was being ambushed. The confrontation was intense. Her oldest sister, who had always been the most vocal, accused me of not respecting their culture. She brought up the fact that I had never made an effort to learn Catalan, despite knowing my girlfriend for over a year. I was taken aback because my girlfriend had never expressed that it was an issue before. I tried to defend myself, saying that I had always been respectful and had even picked up some phrases to try and connect with them. But then, the news dropped. My girlfriend's sister revealed that my girlfriend had been complaining to them about my lack of interest in Catalan culture. I was shocked. My girlfriend had never said anything to me directly. I felt betrayed and hurt. The argument got heated, and I left the cafe feeling like everything was falling apart. I spent the night at my friend's place again, trying to process everything. The next morning, I woke up to find that my girlfriend had left several messages, begging me to meet her at her apartment. I agreed, hoping we could clear the air. When I got there, her demeanor had changed. She was remorseful and admitted that she should have been more upfront about her feelings regarding our cultural differences. She confessed that she had been under pressure from her family to find someone who embraced Catalan culture as much as she did. It was a side of her I hadn't seen before, and it made me question our entire relationship. We were in the middle of our conversation when her phone rang. It was her father, and he was furious. He had found out that we were meeting and demanded that she come home immediately. He didn't want her wasting her time with someone who didn't respect their culture. My girlfriend was torn, but she stood up to him, saying that she needed to make her own decisions. The call ended, and we sat in silence. It was clear that her family's influence was a bigger issue than I had realized. I was starting to see a pattern in their behavior, and it wasn't just about language, it was about control. The final straw came later that day. I was walking back to my friend's place when I bumped into my girlfriend's father. He was with a group of his friends, and they were all speaking Castilian. I overheard him making a business deal, and it was clear that he had no problem speaking Castilian when it benefited him. I confronted him, asking why it was okay for him to speak Castilian for business, but not with me. He was taken aback, and his friends looked uncomfortable. He tried to brush it off, saying that business was different, but I didn't buy it. I realized then that his pride in Catalan culture was selective and hypocritical. I walked away from that encounter feeling a mix of anger and clarity. It was obvious that my girlfriend's family would never truly accept me unless I conformed to their expectations, and that was something I wasn't willing to do. Moroccan half-black BFs. Parents think I'm not good enough for him, and dad makes me eat food with excessive spice. Oh boy, I eat the whole bowl. BF is furious. Oh boy. They tried to arrange a marriage for him before he came out. Dad offers me money to break up with his son. Oh boy, we might leave early. I, 41-year-old man, am a white American, and my boyfriend, 38-year-old man, is Moroccan and half black. His parents took a dislike to me the moment we met. We've been together for 2 years, and he lives in America. The incident in question took place a few days ago. This is only my second time meeting his parents. His mother has been relatively quiet, but it's obvious she feels the same as his father, who is on an all-out warpath. They think that I'm a typical, useless American party boy and not good enough for their son, who is an all-around goody two-shoes. They are wealthy government employees who think that they're contributing a lot to the world. Unlike me, now, it is important to note that I am also wealthy, self-made, and high-ranking in my career. So I am not attempting to get on any gravy train. My boyfriend and I are staying at their home in Morocco. The 4 of us sat down for dinner, cooked by their private chef. Everybody got a bowl of some Moroccan food that smelled really good. I noticed that mine looked paler than the others and didn't have as much of a smell. I didn't comment at first. But then his father outright said, as if he was doing me a favor, that he told the chef to put a portion for me aside before she added any of the seasoning because he thought that my palate wouldn't handle the spice well. I have no issues with spicy food. I could tell that my boyfriend was already uncomfortable, and he told his father that I could eat what they're eating. I managed to keep my cool, despite being really pissed off, and told him in no uncertain terms that I could handle spicy food. Next thing, he took my food and went back to the kitchen. When he returned, my food was a shade darker than everyone else's. I realized after the first bite that it wasn't just spicy, it was inedible. My boyfriend noticed my reaction and told his father off before telling me to stop eating it. But I didn't. I ate the damn food, and I have never in my life eaten anything like it. There must have been an entire bottle of hell in it, the pain. But I persevered, much to my boyfriend's protests. His father simply watched. I was sweating buckets, felt sick, almost had an asthma attack. Another reason that my boyfriend was angry with me, because I put myself at risk. But I ate the whole bowl. Then I left the table victorious, but dying a death. Fast forward, I've been in bed for 3 days, still feel messed up, may not survive. My boyfriend says I should have been the bigger person and that there were no winners, that eating the whole bowl was as childish as his father was for serving it, and harmed only me. He's been taking care of me, but he's also blaming me. I don't think I was the jerk, even if the last 3 days of our vacation have gone down the drain. Edit. I'm not sure that I made it clear enough. The food was taken, and he intentionally made it inedible. My boyfriend argued with his father afterwards. Anyway, I appreciate the comments, and they cheered me up. I am a jerk, and will apologize to my boyfriend. The comments about him picking a man like his father have really bothered me. I will take that advice to heart. Also, I love the concern for my jerk. It has a hard road ahead, but it will be okay. This has come up a few times, so I'll address it here. My boyfriend's parents know he is gay, and they have accepted that. He is free to be himself in their home. We do not take our sexuality outside of the home while in Morocco. I'd like to show this post to him later, and I'm going to remove this edit before I do. Please, if you are going to comment, there is no need for racism. This is his family and his business. Update. I have apologized, and I am forgiven. I punished myself enough for his liking. But he agrees that his father isn't jerk, and he could stand up for me more. I'm out now. Appreciate the responses and the laughs. Final update. Father-in-law has admitted that he didn't think in a million years I would actually eat the food. The point was that it was going to be inedible. But he won't apologize because I chose to do it. My jerk and I have reached a wary truce. Thank you all for the well wishes. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Sometimes you have to stare down the barrel of a gun. Intestinal tract. Not the idiot for standing your ground with father-in-law, but damn do you owe your boyfriend a huge apology. Also, you'll probably need a donut pillow for the flight home. And ice cream, whether to eat it or sit in it is totally up to you. Comment 2. Everyone sucks here. Father obviously, but you're also being childish. Let your partner handle his family and stop trying to prove yourself to people who don't care. You don't look better for having made yourself sick for days, and now he has to care for you. You're 40 years old. Act like it. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. They really helped me through a tough time. So it's been 2 weeks since the spicy food incident, and let me tell you, things have only gotten crazier. After I recovered from the whole food ordeal, my boyfriend and I tried to keep the peace. But his dad, well, he's a piece of work. He's always been the type to hold a grudge, and it seems like he's taken our last confrontation as a personal challenge. My boyfriend once told me about the time his dad didn't speak to him for a month because he decided to study art history instead of law. So, I guess I should have seen this coming. Just a few days ago, we were all in the living room, and his dad starts going off about how Americans have no culture or sophistication. I tried to keep my cool, but then he brought up the dinner incident again, saying I had no respect for their traditions. That's when I lost it. I reminded him that respect goes both ways, and if he wanted me to respect his traditions, he should start by not trying to poison me. My boyfriend's mom, who's usually quiet, jumped in and said that maybe if I wasn't so stubborn, things would be easier. That's when my boyfriend finally snapped. He told them they were being unfair and that if they couldn't accept me, then maybe we should leave. His mom started crying, and his dad just sat there, stone-faced. It was a mess. The next day, my boyfriend and I went out to clear our heads. We ended up at this little cafe he loves, and he opened up about his childhood. Turns out, his parents have always been controlling. They even tried to arrange a marriage for him with a family friend's daughter before he came out. He's been fighting for his independence his whole life, and being with me is part of that. But here's the jaw-dropping part. When we got back, his dad was waiting for us with a sort of apology. He said he didn't mean to upset anyone, and that he just wants what's best for his son. But then he dropped a news. He's been talking to that family friend again, and they're still interested in having their daughter marry my boyfriend. He said it would be a good match and good for the family. My boyfriend was furious. He told his dad that he's with me, and that's not going to change. His dad just shrugged and said he's only thinking about the future. I couldn't believe it. It's like he's completely ignoring the fact that we're a couple. Since then, it's been tense. My boyfriend and I have been spending a lot of time in our room, trying to avoid his parents. But it's hard when you're staying in their house. We've talked about leaving early, but my boyfriend doesn't want to abandon his mom. She's been caught in the middle of all this, and it's clear she's struggling. And if that wasn't enough, yesterday, his dad asked me to have a private talk. He said he knows his son is stubborn like him, and that he's worried he's making a mistake with me. He even offered me money to break up with my boyfriend and leave. I was so shocked I couldn't even speak. I just walked away. My boyfriend knows something's up, but I haven't told him about the offer yet. I don't want to hurt him, but I also don't know if I can keep this to myself. It feels like everything is falling apart, and I'm not sure how we're going to get through this. I was overwhelmed by my new brunch acquaintances oversharing about their long-term family and mental health issues. But when I tell them I can't be their emotional support, they post on social media about feeling unheard. Oh boy, they show up at my door expecting to be taken in after being evicted. I have had a horrible week. I won't go into every unnecessary detail, but suffice to say, the collision of various medical, work, and relationship stressors all at once have me on my last nerve. I banged my wrist on a doorknob yesterday and sunk to the floor and cried on the spot for half an hour because I just couldn't take one more thing. I had brunch planned for today with a pretty new acquaintance. It was actually scheduled weeks ago, so I didn't anticipate what kind of shape I was going to be in today. We've hung out a handful of times, and we have a lot in common. But she has a bit of an oversharing problem. My life sucks in the short term, because right now, I'm like a lightning rod for 2 years' worth of things going wrong to happen all at once. Her life sucks for more long-term family and mental health-related reasons, which she has started going into with ever-increasing levels of morose detail. I'll be honest, it's way too much for how little we actually know each other. And I am really not in a place to become close friends with someone who chronically does not have a modicum of their life together. But because of my current lightning rod situation, I have not been able to make a clean break. So I figured I would just get through today and then tell her I needed to take a step back when I had a bit of dopamine to spare for that uncomfortable conversation. At around 6 a.m. this morning, she starts texting me stuff like, "You are literally the only person I can trust, and I guess I've got a week to find my own place," and everything falls apart. Like, okay, relatable, but also, what? Girl, I am not your Facebook wall circa 2011. And I'm just thinking ahead to the hour-long intense conversation about trauma that I am about to endure. So I text her back and say, "Hey, I'm really sorry for everything you're going through right now, but I am really in no position to be anyone's emotional support right now. So if you don't think you can have brunch today without bringing up intense stuff, I'd rather just cancel." Her response was basically, "Wow. Okay," followed up several hours later with a bombardment of tweets about how the world doesn't revolve around me and how she's so sorry that the things going wrong in her life right now didn't wait until it was convenient for me. But it sucks to be vulnerable and in need of someone to listen to and be told essentially to shut up. Also, that I care more about enjoying my brunch than I do about being an empathetic person. Now, I don't know if my exhaustion and stress made me act like a terrible person, or if it made it justified to want to have a meal where I could actually relax for an hour. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You should have just cancelled. You know how she is, and cancelling saying you were too overwhelmed would have been smarter. A white lie would have been less messy. Then go out yourself to a spa or something. She should take her own advice. The world doesn't revolve around her either, and certainly to take it to social media is completely immature. I'm sure she's hurt, but needs to recognize that you're hurting as well. You'll need to treat each other better. Comment 2. I'm actually going to say, not the idiot. I don't buy that people who overshare and dump on near strangers don't have any idea what they're doing. She trapped you in an uncomfortable position by breaking social rules, and you broke social rules right back, to a lesser degree, to get out of it. You might be the AH in a different situation, but she was already behaving in a way that was not okay. It's not wrong to get out of there and protect yourself. Now, for the update. A lot has happened since my last post, and let me tell you, it's been a rough ride. After the whole brunch fiasco with my acquaintance, things just spiraled from there. So, after she blasted me on Twitter for not being there for her, I thought that was the end of it. But no, she took it a step further. She started telling our mutual friends that I was this cold-hearted person who abandoned her in her time of need. Now remember, we weren't even that close, but suddenly I was the villain in her story. It's not like I didn't have my own stuff going on. Just last week, my boss had piled on extra work because a coworker was out sick. I was already drowning in spreadsheets and deadlines, plus my dog had been sick, and the vet bills were piling up. It was like everything that could go wrong was going wrong. But back to the drama. One of our mutual friends, let's call her Sarah, confronted me about the whole situation. Sarah and I go way back, and she's always been the type to get involved in other people's business. She accused me of being insensitive and not understanding mental health issues. I tried to explain my side, that I was just overwhelmed and couldn't handle more stress, but she wasn't having any of it. The next day, things got even worse. I found out that my acquaintance had been evicted from her place. She had nowhere to go, and guess who she expected to take her in? Me. She showed up at my door with her bags, saying I was her last hope. I was shocked. I mean, we barely knew each other, and now she wanted to move in. I didn't know what to do. I was already at my breaking point, and this was just too much. I told her I couldn't help her, that I had my own problems to deal with. She got angry, started yelling, and then left, leaving her bags on my doorstep. The next day at work, I couldn't focus. I kept thinking about her and wondering if I had done the right thing. My boss noticed and called me into his office. He's a stern guy, not much for chit-chat, and he asked me point blank if everything was okay. I broke down and told him everything. To my surprise, he was understanding. He even offered me a few days off to get my head straight. I was grateful, but also felt guilty for bringing personal drama into the workplace. When I got home, I found out that my acquaintance had been bad-mouthing me online again. She had posted a long rant about how I was a fake friend and how I had refused to help her in her darkest hour. People were commenting, taking sides, and it was just a mess. I felt so alone. Sarah wasn't talking to me, my other friends were distant, and I was being painted as this heartless person online. It was like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Then, out of nowhere, my ex texted me. We hadn't spoken in months, not since our messy breakup. They heard about the drama and wanted to check in on me. It was the last thing I expected. We had a long talk, and they actually apologized for how things ended between us. It was a small comfort, but it meant a lot at that moment. I spent the next day trying to clear my name. I reached out to friends, explained my side, and tried to mend fences. Some were understanding, others not so much. It was exhausting, trying to defend myself against accusations and explain why I couldn't be the support my acquaintance needed. And then, the final blow. My dog, who had been sick, took a turn for the worse. I rushed him to the vet, but it was too late. I had to say goodbye to my best friend, and it broke me. I couldn't believe that on top of everything else, I had lost him. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.